If you are an independent business owner, you have a lot on your plate. And if you're anything like me, your day is full of text messages and emails and Slack messages and Microsoft Teams messages and Discord messages and all different types of communication. And it's really, really easy for things to fall through the cracks. That is where HoneyBook Automations comes in. With HoneyBook Automations, you'll never forget to send that email or deliver that file or do that task ever again. It is a really, really valuable tool that not enough people know about. So in the video today, we have Mac from the HoneyBook team who's gonna show us what integrations are and how they work. And then we're gonna hear from HoneyBook Pro John Branch, who has an amazing integrations process that he uses for all of his wedding clients. Using HoneyBook Automations, he is able to nurture his clients from the very beginning when they first inquire with him all the way through their 1 year anniversary. And it's making him a ton of money and he doesn't even have to lift a finger. So with no further ado, first let's hear from Mac.
There are really 3 questions that you need to be asking yourselves when you build out a single automation step. So automations in HoneyBook can have multiple steps. And at each step, you need to be asking yourself these 3 questions. Okay, so first and foremost, there's an action, which will be an email that you send or a file that you send, or like we talked about, an internal task or a reminder for yourself. So you need to ask yourself, what is that action? And then you need to say, okay, what is the timing of this action? When does this thing need to happen? So the action is what is the thing? The timing is when does the thing need to happen? So how many days, weeks, or hours? How is it before or after? And what is the trigger? And the trigger is what is this thing dependent on? Okay, what are the dependencies around this thing? Do you want a file to send 0 minutes after a payment is received, for example? So that's just one example, okay? And there are ton. I only have 3 up on the screen under the triggers section, you guys. There are a ton of options around the triggers.
All right, so that's how HoneyBook Automations work. Now let's hear from John and see how he uses these automations in his wedding photography business.
I have made my automations pretty much start from the first touch when they get in contact with me on my contact form on my website, all the way through to they're actually having their first anniversary. Big reason for this as well is once you start having more weddings, let's say you have a year with 20, 30, it can be a little hard to keep up with every couple. But the way I spread my automations out, it makes it easier for me to have actual touch points with them, as well as automated emails to help me know where I'm at in that process. So one automation start all the way till anniversary.
So let's get into the actual steps of John's workflow here. And John, I'm going to let you kind of talk through each of these, starting out with step 1, that new booking email that goes out.
I'm gonna start like kind of right before that first email to lead into it, which is when you first get contacted. My automation starts then, and that's just, thanks for getting in contact with me. You can schedule a meeting with me here. HoneyBook has a scheduling system in there, so I don't have to make that schedule for the meeting at all. Pretty much they get that email automatically, they pick a time, and then I can meet with them. After we've met, they decide to book, and they book. The trigger is first payment, and then I automatically have an email that goes out that's like, yay, thanks for booking me. You're booked with me now. Let's set expectations on what's gonna come up next. If you have an engagement session, you'll see an email from me so we can book that and get your timing together. And if not, we'll be meeting later on. Feel free to get in touch with me, so on and so forth.
So regardless of if they have an engagement session or not, your email says, if you have an engagement session, if not, XYZ. Okay, and then the next step after that one.
So the next step is triggered automatically. It's about 5 days later. And this is an email to plan their engagement session. Now, actually, while we were making this deck, I realized there's a step in my automation that I can actually fix, which is I could have my couples picking in a smart file a calendar date and just setting their engagement that way. Currently now I kind of email with them back and forth, which is wasted time. It would make more sense to send a smart file that has a calendar date and they can just choose when they want to do their engagement. But basically this email goes out and it's like, hey, time to plan your engagement. Let's go ahead and talk about where you want to have your engagement. Maybe if you want to have an outfit change. And then I usually have a link to my website that has a engagement session tips kind of page. So the third step is a timeline questionnaire. I like to build my timelines for my couples. Even if they have a planner, I think it makes sense to have a photographer's timeline and then to match that up with your planner. So this is the questionnaire that comes out. It's 120 days before the wedding. So again, this is something that I don't have to remember to do, but once I see that the questionnaire goes out and that they filled it out, now I know, and also a task goes along with this, that I need to build my photographer's timeline. So again, the automations are helping me remember what I need to do next, rather than me either forgetting to build their timeline or doing it too early or having to manually send out a timeline questionnaire for every single couple. This goes out and I go, great, get the information back from them. And just to give y'all some ideas of what the questionnaire looks like, it's a very straightforward questionnaire. Really, when it comes to making a timeline for a photographer, we're kind of building our time around the wedding day itself. I always like to say that the wedding is its own living thing, and we're kind of just fitting in between it. So it's really stuff like, when are you going to start getting ready? When's your hair and makeup start? When does it end? When are you doing a first look or not? When is the cocktail hour? When's the ceremony? Does the reception start? From all of those things, now I know enough to build a timeline. So I can say, well, I'm going to come in here because your makeup starts at 9 and I don't need to be there for all the makeup. Let's show up when your face is mainly done. So I'll come in at 12.
Okay, and then we have step 4. This is the bridal session planning piece of it.
Some of these automation steps, I can choose to release them or not. So they don't just, the email doesn't go out by themselves.
Right.
I have to approve the email to go out. And this is how I can use one single automation, because then if my couple doesn't have an actual engagement session, what will happen is HoneyBook will say, hey, it's time for this automation to go out. Do you want to do it? And I'll go, oh no, because they don't have engagement. And I just delete that step.
Right.
So the bridal session is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, a bridal session and engagement are kind of the same type of thing. It's an extra session along with your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So if for some reason I don't have a bridal session, same thing, I just tell it not to go out. But bridal session email goes out, and it's very much like the engagement session. Here's a guide to help you get through your bridal session, have a friend come with you to hype you up, bring some music so you can be comfortable while you're taking your photos. Let's talk about locations and where you're going to do it and timing, and pick a date and time. But again, having those approved emails on some automation steps are pretty crucial, and they help out a lot. So the shot list questionnaire is pretty much the same as the timeline. The biggest tip I'll give to wedding photographers is make this more about the family shots and not about like, I want pictures of the flowers. This is more like, I want your family list and I want names and I want it, Joe and mom and me and whoever, and that is a list, and so on and so forth, so that I can call it out quickly and get those shots all done.
Okay, cool. And then the last one before the wedding day.
Yep, so 4 weeks before, this is our final meeting. I'll usually do this over Zoom or something. These are short meetings, but they're just like a catch up to make sure we all know what's happening, all the expectations are set. If anything has come up, we can talk about that last minute.
All right, there you have it. Hopefully by hearing from John, that gave you some ideas on how you can use HoneyBook automations in your own business. If you like this video and want to see more just like it, make sure to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.